All right. Hello. Just waiting for a couple of people to drop into the stream. Hello. We've got one person in the stream now. That's an excellent start. One is where we start. Oh no, hold on a second. I have a mute button on my new microphone, so if I need to yell at the dog, I can mute the mic. I'm very proud of that. All right, let's get started. Oh, it's fantastic. There's two people now. Excellent. So, welcome to the Daily Faded. I'm your host, Hetz, and we're going to get faded and talk about the politics and news of the day today. Oh my God, there's so much that I want to talk about. I have made so many notes about things that I'm not going to get to that it pains me. We are tragically behind the curve. That is where we are today. Hold on one second. Ludwig! Sorry. Can't let the dog bark at night. But before we get too serious, best fake news of the day. Oh, by the way, thank you for being here and doing this with me. And I appreciate it very much. So, best fake news story of the day. There was a meme going around that showed a breaking news picture, and it had a lion running down a city street. And it said, Maryland governor releases lions to enforce social distancing. I thought that was pretty funny. The best not fake news story of the day was that leaders in Italian towns trying to enforce the social distancing / stay-at-home policies were calling out people who failed to adhere to the policies. And there's an amazing video of these Italian mayors on the streets berating people. The best of them all was Vincenza De Luca, the president of the regional government of Campania, issued a threat in a video message to those planning to throw a graduation. We will send the police over with flamethrowers. Yes, that is where we're at. We will send the police over with flamethrowers. And we're just like a week behind Italy, so. I would talk about Joe Biden's thing that he did today, but it was entirely inconsequential. He said nothing interesting. He did not seem to be awake. He spoke for 15 minutes. And he did not speak in specifics. It was just a bunch of cliches, and attacks on Trump. And yeah, I mean, it's easy to attack Trump, especially right now. Ludwig! The dog's going to drive me insane. So yeah, that Biden press conference thing was just, it was weird. I don't know what's wrong with that guy. In primary news, Bernie won the Democrats abroad primary, further erasing Joe Biden's lead by 5 more delegates. So now Joe Biden is only ahead by 301 delegates. Hashtag not me, us. So, there was an amazing article in the New York Times about stuff that's been done in response to this virus that we are not hearing about in the United States press and from the US government. China, Taiwan, South Korea, and Singapore all went to great lengths, including doing things that we would consider civil rights violations, to stop the spread of the disease. They had harsh isolation policies where people are forced to leave their family and go to isolation centers so they can't infect anyone else. I think that was in China. They had financial penalties for violating quarantine, which now Europe is doing as well. They had extensive contact tracing to the point of following people by the GPS on their phone to create a trail of where they've been so they can alert other people who've been to the same place that they may have come in contact with the virus. In one of these places, I think this was in Singapore, they actually had drones that would watch out for people who had tested positive but were out in public, because it would track them by their cell phone number, and the drone would fly behind them and had a PA, and it would berate them and force them to go home. That sounds like something that could happen in America. They check temperatures everywhere before you go in a store or in a subway or into any public place. They check your temperature. They pointed out that they has a policy that everyone should be wearing masks, even though they're not proven to stop you from getting the disease. That there are times when people who may have the disease are in public. It's great for them to wear masks because it will limit the amount if they cough. Hold on one second. Ludwig, come here. Come here. Okay, go inside. Sorry. The dachshund. So there's a lot more in this article. I highly recommend it. When you read it, you see how far away we are from them and from what they've been doing. We're nowhere close to what has been done in countries that have successfully, quote unquote, flattened the curve. There's a simulation website, www.covidactnow.org, that shows how many hospitalizations there will be in each state based on what level of response is being enacted. Tomorrow is the point of no return for California, so we're lucky that we acted before that, and we'll see how this goes. I read and researched several articles on how far short of the mark our hospitals are falling, how our healthcare system is already failing us, N95 masks, ventilators, gowns, tests, etc., ICUs. It's hard to know where to start. Basically, the situation is that we're fucked. There was an amazing Twitter thread over the weekend by Heidi Prisbilla from NBC about the American Medical Association, the American Nurses Association, and the American Hospital Association sending the following letter to Trump to immediately use the Defense Production Act to increase the domestic production of medical supplies and equipment that hospitals, health systems, physicians, nurses, and all frontline providers so desperately need. I thought it was going to be colder out here, but I'm suddenly not cold. They, quote, have concerns that increasingly there are dwindling supplies of N95 respirators, isolation gowns, isolation masks, surgical masks, eye protection, intensive care unit equipment, and diagnostic testing supplies in areas that had the first community outbreaks and in many other areas of the country. Even with an infusion of supplies from the strategic stockpile and other federal resources, there will not be enough medical supplies, including ventilators, to respond to the projected COVID-19 outbreak. We have heard of healthcare providers reusing masks or resorting to makeshift alternatives for masks. As Prisbilla points out, this is a complete rebuke of the administration's claim that businesses are voluntarily moving to supply and manufacture everything that the nation will need, which is their continuing claim, which is clearly just not true. So then, before we get to Trump's press conference today, there was an article in The Hill that I have some idiotic things to read to you from this article. Sources close to the Trump administration described a split in the larger Trump world where some people around the president believe the federal government should ease recommendations on social distancing after the 15-day period, while others favor waiting a few more weeks or taking even more dramatic action to stamp out the spread of the virus. This is a stunning indictment of the administration. They're literally not taking this thing seriously. They're more concerned about the economy and Trump's reelection than they are about the American people. And they don't seem to understand that the best way to get reelected is to be concerned about the American people. They're really fools. They're fools. I think there's a recognition that there needs to be some sort of medium between listening to the doctors and listening to other experts as well, the person said. There really isn't a perfect answer. Other experts. Why? Why? We're trying to stop a pandemic. We're trying to stop people from getting sick. Why would we listen to the airline industry as to how we should move forward? They don't know anything about stopping pandemics. We need to be listening to doctors. Quote, in 1 week, we need to be heading back to work, schools, stores, restaurants, and churches with new protocols in place, Fox News host Laura Ingraham tweeted. The risk, if we don't, is that we lose far more in terms of death, pain, and suffering than this pandemic will bring. She literally does not understand that within 1 week, we are going to pass China and have the most confirmed cases in the world. We will probably not have the most confirmed deaths in the world, but having the most confirmed cases in the world will be a pretty serious position that we will find ourselves in. I didn't do the numbers today, but hold on 1 second. Oh, it reset already. We were up like 26% today. This just says up 10%. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, there's a lot. There's a lot. So Laura Ingraham doesn't seem to understand that sending people out into the public will get people sick and will cause people to die. That doesn't seem to matter to her. Quote from the article, quote, one source close to the administration argued that the decision shouldn't be left entirely up to the public health officials because they are not experts on the economic effects of the virus. Literally, no one is an expert on the economic effects of a pandemic like this because we haven't been through this before. So how can there be someone who's an expert who can predict exactly how it's going to go? So this notion that they're consulting some economic experts who are telling them what is the best course of action for the country instead of doctors telling them what is the best course of action for the country is really absurd and frightening. In contrast to this, there are some Republicans who have said that we should go further on controlling the virus. Lindsey Graham said there is no functioning economy unless we control the virus. Steve Bannon advocated on Sunday for an aggressive national shutdown to blunt the spread of the virus, take the pain up front, and hopefully shorten the amount of time businesses remain closed. So there are some Republicans who can see with their eyes and think with their brains, but they are not the ones who are running the show. Because what this really comes down to is capitalism and plutocracy. Take care of the rich people, take care of the capital, take care of the profits. Human life is non-essential, while corporate profits are all important. We saw the bill Mitch McConnell tried to get through yesterday. We saw that it was corporations first, people last, that Mnuchin could waive the rule against stock buybacks being banned for bailed out companies. He would have waived it for 100% of the companies that got bailout money. I have no doubt. It fundamentally does not make sense to have an economy that distributes goods and services based on wealth rather than need. At its core, at its foundation, this notion that the things that are fundamental to life, you only get them if you can afford them. That's just not a humane society. All of which leads us to Trump's idiotic news conference today, which I watched so you don't have to. I'm going to call this segment, Yes, I Would Prefer Barack Obama Was President. And you know it's not easy for me to say that. So Trump just kept talking about how it will end very soon. Normal life will return and our economy will rebound very, very strongly. Notably, he was not calling it the Chinese virus, and he talked about protecting the Asian American community. Said there are some very good Americans there, good people who are getting attacked, and they shouldn't be getting attacked. So suddenly someone filled him in on how calling it the Chinese virus was getting people hurt, and somehow he managed to comprehend that. And a lot of tough talk about how awesome our economy was and how quickly we'll get it back. More about hydroxychloroquine hopes, forgetting that some guy overdosed on it. But God damn it, Trump uses the most boring hyperbole I have ever heard spoken. The whole point of hyperbole is to find new and exciting ways to exaggerate. But just calling everything incredible and tremendous, this is not the hyperbole of an artist. This is the hyperbole of a dotard. A dotard. Dotard? Dotard. Oh, I'm really stoned, you guys. Trump compared COVID-19 to flu and to car accidents, minimizing the crisis again. He's all over the place with his messaging. And then he says, this is going away. And he repeated what Laura Ingraham said, that there will be more death from shutting down the economy than from COVID-19. So we have to reopen. We're going to reopen everything. Listening to him talk about workers is soul-sickening. He keeps saying these workers, they love their businesses. They love them. Yes, Trump, everybody loves their job, especially people who are not being paid enough money to live on. They really, really love their job and they love their employer. I'm sure everyone who works at Amazon thinks that Amazon is bully, that they are A-okay. And I'm sure no one who works at Amazon feels like they are stuck in a dead end and they're trapped because they need the money to survive, but they can't figure out how to get a better job. So, so hearing him talk about we got to get the economy restarted for the workers is so disgusting. It's so disgusting. He wants to restart the economy for the stock market, and that is all. Um, so this whole thing about getting everything going again, it's this 15-day plan. He tweeted, quote, "We cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself. At the end of the 15-day period, we will make a decision as to which way to go, which way we want to go, exclamation point." So supposedly we're on day 8 of some magical 15 days. He's clueless how this works because he's not paying attention to the science. The new propaganda narrative from Trump is more people will die from a shuttered economy than from coronavirus. So you should be more afraid of the economic collapse than you are of the coronavirus. That is the message that they are sending out there. This is like George W. Bush saying after 9/11 that everyone should go shopping. Only it's worse because it's as if everyone went shopping and there were shooters in the malls. I shouldn't joke about that, but I mean that. Like, going shopping could get you killed in this case. So this is far worse. I hate that when the chips are down, they tell us to go shopping. I hate that. Oh, that drives me so crazy. We are fucked. Trump keeps lying that our numbers are amazing, and that they're so much better than other countries' numbers. And then he'll go, because we got a big country, because the numbers aren't amazing. I just said that we're in 3rd place now, behind China and Italy, and we're going to pass Italy in a day or two. Um, and then Trump says, "Look how good Nebraska is doing." Yeah, Trump, there's nobody in Nebraska, you fucking child. So, supposedly they were going to give people like $1,000, except for poor people for some reason. I don't have the details on that right now, on what was in the legislation. But don't trust them when they say that they're going to pay cash to Americans, because they don't mean it. They're not going to pay people what people need to survive. And as long as they do that, if people come out of this crisis in more debt and perhaps unemployed and with no money, then there won't be any pent-up demand, and that V curve that Trump keeps talking about will never happen. It will take forever for consumer demand to go up again if people are still reeling economically because they haven't been taken care of, because we haven't provided a full social safety net. So, in fact, the socialist policy is the better policy economically, because people will have buying power when businesses reopen, when people start going out in public. If people have been made whole, they will still have buying power, and you can restart the economy that way. But they don't, they're supply siders, not demand siders. So it's amazing that people can still believe these economic theories. It's just incredible. So William Barr was there today in the press conference, which is new and interesting. He was there to speak about stopping hoarding and price gouging, which is apparently part of the Production Defense Act. So it looks like the only reason that they signed an executive order to invoke the Production Defense Act was for this clause about hoarding and price gouging. And I don't think they're ever going to actually. I think businesses don't want to be nationalized. Businesses don't want to be told what to do. And Pence talked about a way to convert anesthesiologists' equipment into a makeshift ventilator. said the FDA is putting out guidelines on how to do that. I'll believe it when I see it. We'll see. Pence has this new fetish that he keeps saying. He said, one of the things that makes America different is that we have a system of federalism. Our response to the coronavirus is locally executed, state managed, and federally supported. It's a way of saying the national government is not responsible. It's a way of blaming it on Gavin Newsom and Bill de Blasio. It's a way of saying, no, the government doesn't owe you anything. So go beg to your mayor. Go beg to your governor. Just as an aside, I heard Stephanie Kelton being interviewed by Michael Moore, and she calculated that we needed $600 billion direct aid to the states to make up for lost tax revenue from this economic crisis, which of course she supports. More about Stephanie Kelton on another night. Some random details. Supposedly we're getting a new self-administered test that will save personal protective equipment that needs to be worn by people currently doing the tests to patients. So if that's true, that would be awesome. Again, I'll believe it when I see it because I don't believe anything they say. Apparently, Facebook donated 700 masks to someone somewhere. I'm not sure who they don't. 700,000 masks. Why does Facebook have 700,000 N95 masks? That doesn't make any sense. It's a company of like 40,000 people. So that's weird. So then, towards the end of the press conference, which just got very strange and uncomfortable because Donald Trump is a weird man and people around him react strangely to him, Dr. Birx said, we're learning from China and South Korea who have finished their curves, which of course brings us back to the New York Times article that we were talking about at the beginning. Because we heard about all of the things that China and South Korea and Singapore and Taiwan are doing or have done. And we are not locking people down as harshly as China. We are not testing as much as South Korea. And we are not tracking people with the disease by their cell phone like I think Singapore did. China might have done that too. We're not doing those things. Now, I can't say that I necessarily am going to advocate for all of those things because I do believe in civil liberties and I am concerned about giving up too much of our civil liberties. So I'm not sure that I want them tracking people by cell phone, but I do think a firm stay-at-home order getting people off the streets, I do think that is worth doing. And it should be done nationwide. And it should be a centralized, focused effort led by a competent president. But we don't have a competent president. So I'm sorry, I wish the news was more titillating tonight. There is a lot more to talk about, and we'll get to it tomorrow night. So thanks a lot. Peace out, and I will see you tomorrow night.